I hope you had a good lunch break. At least I had a good lunch break at an extraordinarily sunny day here in Brussels, and I would like to welcome you here to the presentation of Destination 7, which corresponds to the Horizon Cluster 6 22 Governance 01. I'm here with my colleagues who will help me to lead you through the session. My name is Bernd Bierwert. I'm the head of unit in DG Research and Innovation, Unit C5. Some of you might have already seen me yesterday morning in the plenary session with my colleagues Kerstin and Claudia, and I will moderate and lead you through the discussion of this session. Before we start with the individual topics and before I start to give the floor to my colleagues, I would like just to remind you, as usual, we will have a Q&A session after a number of topics presentations with Slido. So on the next slide, you will see. Can we have the slide with Slido? You will see, and you have already done it a couple of times, I guess, and in the previous destination discussions. Please go to Slido, so sli.do, and then insert hashtag Cluster 6 Info Day. You choose the room, and then you can ask your question, which will then by exactly please indicating the topic you are referring to with your question, and then we will assign it to the colleagues who will hopefully be able to answer your question. We have a limited time for the questions, so if there are too many questions, we will do a weighting in terms of which questions received the highest support, and we will go in the order of this. If we could go to the next slide, please. I would just here at the introduction mention that Destination 7, which is the last destination of Cluster 6, but by far definitely not the least important. On the contrary, it's as you've seen, it's the most horizontal in our work program. It cuts across many thematic areas, and which have a potential impact on several important topics or issues such as climate change, mitigation, adaptation, clean air, water and soil, etc. This destination is aiming to provide innovative approaches to governance and approaches which are needed for our transformation required by the European Green Deal. At the same time, the modern governance approaches require multiple channels and networks that readily available data and information coming from different sources, including data and information obtained through environmental observation. As you can see here on the slide, we have showed you the policy context, which is relevant for this destination. So it's in the first place European Green Deal. We've been elaborating on this a little bit more in detail in our plenary session on Monday morning. Here we have shown you also on the slide the impact as formulated in the strategic plan. You will remember from the plenary session the different layers and intervention logic when it comes to drafting the work program, and where the strategic plan has clearly outlined the importance of innovative governance models which enable sustainability and resilience. And then we have shown you on the slide the different impact areas which are relevant for Destination 7, and which you can see on the right hand, such as climate change mitigation and adaptation. If we could go to the next slide, please. So the next slide, here we want to briefly just to enumerate to you in a bit more detailed manner, the manifold expected impacts of this call, of this destination. And they refer to exactly to the 7 impacts which are here mentioned in the slide, such as I mentioned already, the innovative governance models enabling sustainability and resilience. It's also about strengthening our global Earth observation system, sustainability, performance and competitiveness, agricultural knowledge and innovation system, and sustainable development goals. So a large number of expected impacts relevant for this call. In the next slide, we wanted to show you or to give you a brief overview of this destination's calls for the year 22. We have for this destination allocated a total available budget of 147 million for 15 topics. If you look at the different types of topics, there's a light majority of CSAs. We have 7 CSAs in this destination, so coordination and support actions. We have then 5 research and innovation action, 2 innovation actions, and then there's 1 co-funded partnership, which you also find, and that is in the area of climate neutral, sustainable, and productive blue economy. So this is what I would like to tell you by way of introduction for this important destination. And without further delay, I would like now to give the floor to my colleague Inge van Oost, who will present the topics 12, 13, 14, and 15. After Inge has presented these 4 topics, there will be a section where you can ask her questions, maximum 20 minutes before we move to the next speakers and topics. Inge, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Bernd. So, if we can have the first slide. This is the topic on thematic networks, which is meant to compile and share knowledge and make it ready for practice. This is a template of already 7 years. We started in 2014 with this kind of topic, 5 projects every year, coordination and support action. Next. Now, of course, in this framework of Horizon Europe, we are definitely looking at a policy context with the Green Deal, farm to fork, and biodiversity strategies. And we will deliver support to these by summarizing and sharing some smart and practice-ready knowledge. So that's really our target. Summarizing existing knowledge, so no new research, just what is there from research or from practice, make it easy, understandable, so that practitioners can immediately use it for the transitions that we would like them to do. And this helps then, of course, also the CAP cross-cutting objective on knowledge and innovation. It will feed into our ACIS and CAP networks, which will also distribute the information from these projects. And in this way, we will speed up innovation and the uptake of the results, which is, of course, key for improving sustainability and changing farmers' behavior. And, of course, also saving funding, because we share things across Europe, while otherwise maybe on the same subject, different countries would be doing the same. That's the big advantage and EU added value of our ACIS and our CAP networks. As expected outcomes, as I said, we collect, the right choice, collecting, translating, because our operational groups are often in the language of the country. There's a bit of translation here too. Also the outcomes we would like to see translated as much as possible, at least in the partners' languages, and then shared with the multi-actor approach to something that is appealing, easy to understand, and very important, targeted to farmers and foresters' needs. This is the best guarantee that they take it up. So we want to really make wider use of the best practices and research findings that are there, close to be put in practice, but not yet known sufficiently by the practitioners. And this way we will help to achieve greater user acceptance, because they are also involved in these projects, the users, and help the transition towards a smarter and greener agriculture and food system. Next. Our scope is, and I'm repeating myself now, this summarizing, sharing and presenting. Also, in the project proposals, we want to see the description of the state of the current farming practices on the chosen team. So they can choose, the consortia can choose their own team, but they have to explain the added value of the proposal and also the relevance of the team. As I already said, it has to tackle the needs of the end users, but it also has to be somehow relevant in a broader sense and bring some added value that we don't have duplication of already existing projects. There should be a focus on cost benefits for the simple reason that this is always for end users super important. So if you get knowledge from that in the project, please add it. It's not that we want a big agroeconomic assessment study, but just for all the practices that are there, if you can give a flavor to the end users about what does this cost and what does it bring, that's always more attractive. And also appealing material like audio visuals, videos, photos, etc. They are very attractive for people in practice, and that's both at the EU level and as well also through national, regional or local channels, which are most consulted by the end users, farmers, foresters. This could be an agriculture journal or a newsletter of an advisory body, or maybe still radio or television where it still exists. Whatever is most used by our end users, that's important. Get this knowledge on the longer term there after the project is closed. Already we've said now that the project should run minimum 3 years. We saw that in the past with 2 million, often projects chose also to do only 2 years. And this is just not enough, because before they are really up to speed, there's already a year gone, and the second year they're starting on how to end and make their deliverables. So we now give 3 million for these projects, and we expect them to run for minimum 3 years. There's a strong, this is multi-actor of course, this is a strong recommendation to cooperate with operational groups, interactive, innovative projects. And in total, we have 9 million so that we can fund 3 projects. I have one extra slide. Next slide should show you what already yesterday in the overview was presented. So our multi-actor requirements from 1 to 8, and they are all equally important. And you can find them in the PDF of the work program on page 19 to 21. So they are not in the topic. If you work through the topic on the IT system, you will not see it. You really have to go into the full work program, look into the introduction on page 19 to 21, and there you can find all the multi-actor requirements. Don't forget that this is incredibly important because it is a criterion for excellence, and it is also an eligibility criterion. So if it's not fulfilled, the project will not be further selected. They must use the multi-actor approach. And this is simply because the outcomes will be more demand-driven if we get our practitioners involved, more reliable, more relevant to society, and it will create co-ownership for the results for those users. So please don't mix it up with applied research, because in applied research, maybe you do some field tests, but it's still the researcher who is the boss. And here, everybody's working together, and together they plan, they execute, and they promote the project. And this is exactly why it speeds up acceptance and take-up of new ideas. Next.
Inge, sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to, as I see that so far no questions have been posed, which is certainly due to the fact that everything you present is extremely clear. I just wanted to nevertheless encourage the audience, if you have any questions, you can already during the presentation use Slido and ask Inge questions. She will then answer to them at the very end of her topic explanations. Thanks, Inge. You can go on. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernd. I thought you were going to say it's going too slow, but here I have 2 extra slides, which are also valid, in fact, the multi-actor slides for the other topics. So I just put them extra here in this first topic, but they are equally valid for the others. So just very quickly, please read them in depth in this introduction, because that's exactly where the evaluators will look at. But just a quick overview of what are these requirements. They are all musts except the last one. There it is as much as possible, but the other are all must. Your project objectives must be targeting the needs and opportunities of the end users of the results of the project. You must make sure that your project concept and also the composition of the consortium is balanced with key relevant actors with complementary knowledge. So not 14 researchers, 1 advisory group and 1 farmers group. We don't call that a balance. So really look for a balanced choice also in your consortium and of course in your project concept. And this should help to ensure broad implementation if you get these users and multipliers involved. And this is really involved all over the course of the project, as from the planning phase up until the end of the project. They work together as a team. This will then automatically ensure cross-fertilization during the project and integration of tacit and practical knowledge. How will the evaluator see that? Through a number of knowledge exchange events. We don't want to see like one work package with the scientists in and another work package with the practitioners in, and they never talk to each other. That would not fit with what we want to reach, this involvement over the whole course of the project. So we really want to see this cross-fertilization and through a number of activities who ensure that it is really happening. We want some facilitation. Why? Because in a multi-actor process, you have very different people, people from science who go very deep into their subject and then take a long-term view, while practitioners often want, if possible, the solution tomorrow, and they have a shorter-term view. So it might be very useful to have somebody in between, an advisor or another intermediate person who can help the process ongoing and make sure that they understand each other and really work well together. We want to see, and this is not special for this type of projects, it's useful for any project. In fact, we want to see what it brings us added value. We have so many research already, we have best practices, and how does this project complement existing research? So this is really showing that this project to be selected has something more than the others, brings something more than the others, is not just repeating what we already have. You understood that results overall for all multi-actor projects, but in particular, of course, for thematic networks, results must be very understandable, easy, practical, and feed into the most used dissemination channels. And also, secondly, at EU level, in the common EIP format, they need to make practice abstracts. These are very concise 20-liners, outcomes of the project in an easy language that we can share through our EIP website to a very broad audience in any EU country. And then it's always good, as much as possible, to involve EIP operational groups under the CAP or other local interactive innovation groups, because then you really come from this EU level to the very local level where the real needs and questions live and can be passed through to the European consortium. Thank you. Next slide is also a next topic. This is a new type of topic that we've drafted, based in fact on the former one. So it's also a thematic network. It's also compiling and sharing knowledge ready for practice. But here we would like, instead of bottom-up themes that are chosen, to really work on the basis of existing outcomes that are common for a number of operational groups, putting those outcomes together, comparing them and adding them with further material from on this theme, let's say. Next. Our policy context is broadly the same. It's our strategies and the Green Deal. It's again summarizing existing knowledge. It will help the CAP cross-cutting objective and all learning processes in the ACES. This is great material for education, vocational training, for students, for training of farmers or training of advisors. So it will feed in all these things within the ACES, and the CAP networks will help to distribute this to the different countries. And our expected outcomes are exactly like the former one, collecting, translating and sharing in a multi-actor approach our knowledge, and make sure that it is appealing, easy to understand, and, very important, targeted to farmers and foresters' needs. And in this way, we will create this added value by closer connecting the local and the EU level. And in particular, here we do this because the connection with operational groups is not recommended here, but it is a condition. It's really part of the topic, and you cannot make a proposal here without combining operational groups with this EU level consortium. So we need to see them working together. And our aim is, our outcome that we want is to make wider use of best practices and research findings that are close to put in practice, but not known enough by the practitioners. Next. So here comes our condition. So besides tackling the most urgent needs, you have to build on the experience and outcomes of at least 5 operational group projects of at least 5 member states. So this is the core. Those need to be there, not necessarily each partner, the operational group, but we want to see the operational group reflected there, whether it is with 1, 2, 3, or whatever number of partners. We want that they are the building blocks on which these projects build, so that the knowledge from these projects is put together, and that we can add further information to that. So again, a common operation group team according to those that are working together, that ends up in an attractive and easy understanding format for practitioner. So this is really to scale up those outcomes of operational groups at European level. The same things help many audiovisuals. Also, should have said this for the forward topic also, on-farm demonstration, because peer-to-peer learning for practitioners is super important. So if they can see that it works on another farm, they will be much more inclined to apply it too. And this is our big aim: impact, impact, impact. That's why cost benefits is again important here. And our two main streams of delivering this material is again the EU level with the practice abstract by the EIPRD website, and the national channels, regional, local channels, which are most consulted by farmers and foresters. And here, because it's a new kind of topic, we intend, in fact, if it works well, to continue this on the longer term, because in total we already have 2,000 operational groups running or finished, and we still have further planning of more than 1,000 to come. So we expect that with the growing number of operational groups over the years, we will be able to have maybe a little bit more project of this type. We start here with 2 million to see a little bit how it works. So exactly as the former thematic networks. So in total, 2 projects will be 4 million in total. They are multi-actor. I explained everything in the former slides. And we also want to cooperate, that these projects cooperate with the EU knowledge reservoir for practitioners that is being made under Gov 024. So it's important that they collect, and they will also help projects to ensure that they use the right IT language, the right IT standards, so that it can go into this EU knowledge reservoir. So this is an important issue, should have put it in red. So that's this topics, and then we can go to the next topic. This one is on multi-actor projects and how we can improve the preparation to enable the relevant actors to work in a co-creative way. We see that for multi-actor projects in Horizon, it's apparently much more difficult to get nice consortia, well-mixed, right experts to help for the objectives, because of course Europe is much bigger than an operational groups which works more in a province or in a country, so more local, let's say. So this is a topic to explore how we can improve that. Next. Next. It will again help. Oh, sorry, I said 2 times next, but in fact, I still need the other slides, the one before, yes. So as a policy context, it's all again about impact and trying to improve that multi-actor projects outputs are really used. And this will only happen if we have a better preparation of our multi-actor projects. I already gave you the example of 14 scientists that only found 1 advisor and 1 farmers organization. This has also to do with the preparation. If we can find better ways of connecting people, they will more easily work together in a co-creative way. So we're really looking for approaches for developing sound, coherent, and well-prepared multi-actor projects. We know this works very well because we do it in the CAP with our operational groups. We call it step 1, the preparation, and step 2 is the project. So we're thinking about approaches like that, but maybe also others. That's up to the consortium to find out. To enable the project coordinators to use better complementary knowledge of partners to prepare the actions into ready-to-use solutions. This will support, again, our cross-cutting objective of knowledge and innovation, and improve interaction and connections within the ACES. So in each country, we have an agricultural knowledge and innovation system. So let's call it shortly ecosystem, an innovation ecosystem where the knowledge is. And if we can connect those better, we will also be more easy, make it more easy to have good multi-actor projects. The relevant actors will find each other easy and get help to find each other, for instance, through innovation support services, which in the next CAP period become obligatory in each country. And also from your side, you have the NCPs, the national contact points for Horizon. If they get together with the CAP networks, it will be much more easy to have a well-balanced consortia. Also, the social skills to work together, the drafting skills are very important and could be items to look at in this kind of project. So our outcome is that we improve the drafting of multi-actor proposals, and in particular the connection and involvement of relative actors with complementary knowledge in a balanced way and in the preparatory stage. And this will help to better link research with education advisors' farming practice and encourage in this way the wider use of available knowledge and innovation. So it's all about connecting innovation to actors and innovation project at all levels, from the European level to the very local level, resulting in faster and wider co-creation and transposition of innovative solutions into practice, and communicating at the same time to the scientific community the research needs of practice. Next. So our scope is, first of all, to better include at an early stage the needed variety of relevant practice abstracts. It's mostly not a missing of scientists, but missing practice actors. That makes the multi-actor projects unbalanced, and make sure also that they find useful information, including practice information at the start, that they don't have to do a survey about what is the problem here, but they have really already the actors there that can help to find that tacit knowledge or that more practical knowledge. And this will strengthen then the co-creation between all those actors, even before the start and the selection of the multi-actor project. So it will be good to make use of the potential capacities of the national regional ACIS, because they have this task now. It's an obligation in the new CAP to structure the ACISs better, to have no silos anymore between research, advice, CAP networks, that they work better together in a systematic way, in a regular way, and the ACIS coordination bodies will help to this effect. So this is really running in parallel with the number of actions we take under the CAP. In particular, one of the things which works very well for operational groups is the provision of seed funding. For our operational groups that are in average maybe 400,000 euro, we give seed funding of 5,000 to 8,000 euro, lump sum, simple way to fund a number of meetings, to look up some information, to draft the cooperation agreement, and to make the proposal ready to put down for selection. So it's all about finding those ways to improve the connection and interaction between multi-actor projects and operational innovative projects from the very start of the project, which will improve interaction between the various levels from the EU level to the local level. So we will have as outcomes probably some guidelines, some pathways, maybe at institutional level, to improve the overall quality of this preparation phase of the multi-actor projects. And there are a number of our projects in Call 2021 that can help you. We have, as I already told you, an EU knowledge reservoir. This can help to find relevant information around a certain topic that needs to be developed. We also have this COM00. We have Gov 125, and I put that one in red because that's the project that interconnects the different ACISs of the member states, and it's through these ACISs that you can reach the different actors in the country. So that's definitely an important one to link also to. And we would like that all member states are covered as much as possible. Just disseminate, as we already told you, is foreseen for all multi-actor projects. And make sure that the specific actors to be involved also present the outcomes to the policymakers at all levels, influencing policies and governance. This is just one project that we expect for 5 million budget in total. And it is multi-actor, and it needs to work together with Gov 024, but also the other ones that are already listed there. So this is the end for topic number 14. And then there's the last one. The next slide. Topic number 15 is about developing EU advisory networks on water use. Next. Our policy context broadly is the same, Green Deal, Farm to Fork, biodiversity, but here we focus on advisors because advisors are incredibly, and we have now also science from the AgriLink project to prove that they are in fact the first person which farmers take advice and help to take their decisions. So they are incredibly important that they have the right knowledge and that they are fully integrated also in the ACIS so that they can pick up knowledge. And here we chose as a theme water, exactly because of climate change issues and the need to be very careful with water. You can think about water shortages, water pollution, etc. But overall, this is a project not to research on these things, but to develop an advisory network across the EU so that advisors who know more, who are in one country, can help advisors in other countries. So it's really getting advisors' knowledge and exchanges across the EU to increase the speed of knowledge sharing and capacity building on water. This is a little mistake here in my slide. I copy-pasted from last year, but of course it's all about water, so I apologize. This is a small typo here. It will help our cross-cutting objective again and all the learning processes of advisors across the EU, and at the same time the exchanges, because they will get to know each other, and it will not end with the subjects of water use. Once they know each other, they will more easily take contact also on other topics. So it's also a way of getting advisors from different countries in connection with each other. But here, as I said, and now I have to emphasize this because this is all what we expect as an outcome is advisors that get connected who are specialized in water issues and with really hands-on experience, not advisors in offices, but advisors who are really on the road and every day feel how it works on a farm and what are the issues on a farm, and how can we make these approaches more sustainable. So it will help the farmers' viability because they will maybe higher yields in case of droughts, or reduce the water use, or have less problems with conditionality or other issues if they pollute. And it will help overall the reduction of water pollution and water use. We expect that some supporting services will develop from this, some materials that will be shared to facilitate the upscaling of prevention of water shortage and pollution, or other water issues, of course, are also very welcome. But these were the ones that we thought are certainly not to be forgotten and should be in there. And again, this is a topic where it could be useful to interact with policymakers on institutional barriers, about these practical water issues. So also some information about the bottlenecks or lock-ins or too ambitious regulations or too lenient checks or whatever. We think some interaction with policymakers here is well on its place. Next and last slide. So the scope is connecting these advisors across Europe, have a broad and closed network of farmers. As I said, really advisors that are on the road on a daily basis. Focus on cost-benefit elements for the same reason I already explained before, and if you can, quick wins, because those are typically the practices that are often first taken up and implemented. Of course, all depends on local conditions, and you have to take those into account also. These advisors should then be integrated in a network of water. Want that they are integrated into the member states' ACES as much as possible, that they also spread what they learn in this EU project to their fellow advisors at national level. For instance, for one-to-one advice, or as innovation brokers for operational groups on innovative water solutions, or for giving training, or for leading national thematic networks. I just explained you what the European thematic networks is, but also at national level in the framework of the ACES, and the cap we pay for, or we can pay for national thematic networks. And these kind of advisors that can learn from their companions in other countries are probably very good candidates to lead such a national thematic network. Of course, during the work, there will be good examples that are documented and shared, hopefully in an open use and open source digital tool system to be explored. That's why we also want this project to work together with the EU knowledge, practical knowledge reservoir, the Gov 0124. It's good to take contact with these people from the very beginning, because a number of languages and standards are of importance to be able to integrate it in this knowledge reservoir. We expect the material to be delivered again to the EIP Agri and to the local channels that farmers most use, and also to provide some back office support to generalist advisors, because we will here form specialist advisors on this water, and we have a lot of generalist advisors that in theory should be able to reply to all questions of the farmers. But if there's some dedicated deep question on water use, then they can go and find help and ask their colleagues who are in this network. We hope that this network will cover then all EU member states. In fact, that's the scope, that's what we require, and that it explores also some cooperative upscaling of the advisors' networks activities on water use at the level of at least a few member states. And the more the better, of course, but it would be nice if something could come out that can be used across the borders, let's say, and see if some common tools and this EU knowledge reservoir has a good team of IT experts that might help you with that. See if some common tools can increase then the implementation of the learnings from these projects. Don't forget that there is already an EIP Agri focus group on water, that we had an EIP Agri workshop on water, and also Horizon 2020's thematic network to improve water management. So all material that can already be used by this network of advisors. We expect 2 networks to be paid. Why? simply because we know that all advisors are not so easy to be found. We know the big bodies in each of the countries, but there's a mass of private one-man companies that also give advice, and it's important that we also reach those. If you can pay for 2 projects here, we expect that it will be complementary and that one will find maybe more advisors in certain countries than another one, or other types of water-related practices. So we have 2 projects here with a total budget 8 million, so 4 million per project. And we want these advisory networks to have a nice period, a long period to work together, to have the best result of it. So at least 5 years to see them work. It's multi-active and the cooperation I already mentioned. So I suppose it's now time to look a little bit to the questions.
Yes, thanks, Inge, very much for this very clear presentation of these four topics, four important topics. Participants, you will have seen that we have started with topic 12, not with topic 1. This is because Inge has an important commitment right after the session, so that's why we started with this block. We have a little bit less time as we had foreseen for the questions, Inge, as you were very explicit and clear in your presentation, but still I would like to give the participants the possibility so that you can answer at least on some of the questions. For the rest, we will come then back in writing via the funding and tender portal. Inge, if I could just ask you, Gail will read out loud the questions. If you could be very brief in your answers, so that we can answer to most of the questions and then move to the next as speakers are already then waiting. Please, Gail. Thank you.
Sure. So what we do is that we are going to filter per topic and take the most voted question per topic. So let's start with this one on topic 12. So knowing the whole topic on thematic networks in Horizon 2020, what is the difference you want to see in projects submitted under Horizon Europe?
I want to see them working longer, because this permanence is quite important before they are known and can be found. 2 years is really too long. That's why we made the budget higher. It's now 3 million instead of 2. And we also ask for a minimum 3 years instead of keeping that open as it was in the former.
Thank you, Inge. We have a little bit difficulty to understand you. If you could speak a little bit louder and come a little bit closer to the micro, so that we can yes. all understand you. Thanks, and I think we can move on with the next question. Thank you.
Yeah.
Sure. So this is for topic 13, Inge. So this topic 13 is flagged for cooperation with topic 0124, but not with topic 2112. What is the reasoning to have so similar topics entirely separate?
Well, topic 113 has this obligation. The theme has to be chosen according to what these 5 or more operational groups are doing. So there's no open choice of themes. While topic 12, any topic can come in, as long as we don't duplicate what has been done already. There's a real open choice of themes. So this is the main difference between the two. And they all have to cooperate with 124.
Okay, and now we have a question on topic 14. Do you mean that NCPs should become part of the consortium?
No, that is not needed.
Okay, and now a question on topic 15. Can the application of pesticides linked to water be considered?
Yes, of course. We spoke about pollution of water, so that's indeed application of pesticides linked to water, yes.
Okay, and now we have a question which applies to 3 topics, so 12, 13, 14. What role do you foresee for CAP networks in these activities?
I think they will be the main dissemination at EU level as well as at national level for the outcomes of these activities.
Okay, and I will take another one on topic 12. What do you mean saying that the consortia have to cooperate with Governance 124? But I think that we already touched upon. But if you want to complement.
I can just repeat that we want that all those information go into the EU knowledge reservoir, which has a certain conditions to be able to on the websites. You need to use certain languages and respect certain standards. So before you start, take contact with them so that you know which are these conditions, and they might also help you to set up a website or whatever. So I think it can only be useful.
Good. Inge, many thanks. I know you have to move to another meeting. Thanks for your availability and also for having answered the question so swiftly and precisely. Thanks to participants for their interest in these 4 topics. I'm sorry that we could not now reply to all orally, but as I said, we will come back to this in writing. Inge, thanks again, and we will move now to the next block, as we have still quite a number of topics and speakers ahead of us. So without further ado, I would like to pass the floor to our next speaker. Now we are going back to the very first topic in this call, so 0101. And Giulia Meloni is with us to introduce this topic. We will take then the other speakers of this block before we do a second block of Q&As. Giulia, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Bern, and good afternoon, everybody. So this is topic 1, the mobilization of society to transform food systems for co-benefits. So in line with the EU's climate ambitions for 2050, the successful proposal will involve this mobilization of society. And the project will lead to innovative governance models, enabling sustainability and resilience, which achieve better informed decision processes, societal engagement, and innovative solutions. Next slide, please. So the topic links to EU policy objectives such as the EU Green Deal and the Farm to Fork strategy, but also the Fit for Food 2030 initiatives. As for the expected outcomes, it will help transform food systems for co-benefits to nutrition and health, climate, environment, biodiversity. And it will build on the existing Fit for Food 2030 initiative to further mobilization of all relevant food system stakeholders to work together via this interlinked structure. Also, a new and improved structure network of evidence-based policy labs throughout Europe. And finally, an increased pan-European citizen engagement and societal and co-creation through really local and regional living labs. And as a related impact, would like to see more informed and engaged stakeholders, but also end users. Next slide, please. As of the scope, you see here 7 main scopes. So the first one is to really establish this pan-European Food 2030 multi-actor and public engagement mechanism to really raise food system awareness and foster more citizen involvement. Moreover, to engage a network of science museums to co-create and deploy Food 2030 food system labs, and support emerging relevant citizen science projects at really local level, but also to develop and deploy innovative interactive food systems education material to facilitate the cooperation of all the relevant EU Horizon Europe projects and to measure food system transition progress. And finally, explain and map how these co-benefits will be achieved and relevant to the four Food 2030's priorities. Very important, as Inge was highlighting, this is also a multi-actor approach that is needed. This is under the social and behavioral sciences, and very important as well, collaboration with other projects. And finally, the topic has an indicative budget of 8 million euros. Thank you for your attention.
Julia, many thanks. Please stay with us for the Q&A section. And I will now pass the floor to Wendy. Wendy, you have two topics, so you can present the two in one row. Please, Wendy.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I will introduce you into the European Partnership for a Climate Neutral, Sustainable and Productive Blue Economy, which is a co-fund action. So it is the only one of its kind in this batch of topics that is being launched under Cluster 6. So it can launch on itself research and innovation actions or innovation actions, but the type of action that is included in the work program is a co-funded partnership. The next slide, please. So the policy context of this partnership is in the first place the European Green Deal, with its different strategies that are mentioned here as well. So all of them, they need to play a role in the partnership, and as well the digital Europe priorities. So the Green Deal aspects and the digital aspects are very important for this partnership. And if we go then a level down on specific directives and legislation, the Marine Strategy Framework Directive and the Marine Spatial Planning, they are mentioned in the scope of the partnership text as well. But there will be also inevitably links with the Water Framework Directive and Habitats and Birds directives as examples as well. From a science policy context, the partnership is based also on different regional sea basin strategic research and innovation agendas. And also the regional aspirations will need to be taken along during the duration of the partnership. And then we come to international and European science policy interfaces in marine and maritime aspects. And from the European, we also go towards global levels of the UN Decade of Ocean Science, as well as G7 Future of the Seas and Oceans Initiative. And important as well are the environmental observation aspects, such as the Global Earth Observation System of Systems. The expected outcome of this partnership is that it will play or that it will make a crucial contribution to the sustainability and the resilience of the blue economy through strengthening European and international science policy interfaces into marine and maritime related domains, and also in relation to environmental observations. The multi-level cooperation and alignment needs to be enhanced as it is a co-funded partnership, so it should increase also alignment between member states, associated countries, and potentially third countries if they would also like to be engaged. Let's say also capacity leveraging effect is also expected. So this will also hopefully strengthen the role of Europe in ocean science, because a bigger capacity attractivity of this domain is needed, so that we have a bigger capacity in the future in ocean and sea science that would need to go along with blue growth, so that also the environmental sciences, social sciences and economic sciences that are in balance, and that the technology developments can let's say take place in environmental and social guidance. The partnership is also expected to contribute to the climate neutrality and science-based implementation of EU marine-related legislation, regulation and objectives, so that for the specific directives in place, that we get really tangible results that will also be uptaken by these policymakers, so that we can see a clear, significant impact in the specific regulations and legislation of this partnership. The solutions that it would deliver, they need to be sustainable, fair and just. And so that also the communities will have benefits from the solutions that would be developed within the partnership. And innovations, they can be so from a digital perspective, but also nature-based and social innovations are considered as well. So that community-led and purpose-driven technology is also part of it, and that there is also a link between the social and the technology. Increased ocean literacy is an evidence as well, and ocean and coastal observations, availability of fair data, and then also a strengthened global cooperation with key partners bordering the different AUC basins. So where we also refer then to potentially third country involvement. The next slide, please. There is a long text of scope for this partnership, since it's also, of course, attracting quite a significant amount of EU contribution. So the development of ocean science, research, social and technological developments and innovation, it's at its core to deliver the knowledge and the solutions that are needed for several challenges for seas and oceans. So we expect an impact-driven and coherent approach to address common issues jointly. So also connecting the different regional, let's say, needs for the different regional sea basins in Europe. The scientific knowledge that would need to be used by the regulators and policymakers, as mentioned in the expected outcomes. And the innovations, they can be of a variety of technological, nature-based, social, economic, and cultural. And also experimenting with new planning, governance, business, and finance models. So we expect also Europe-wide, holistic, and cross-sectoral approaches. So single sector research needs and innovations, therefore we would rather think that other partnerships or other, let's say, channels of research and innovation could be useful for this, but this partnership is expected to focus really on cross-sectoral benefits of the research and the innovation. So engaging also local, regional and national authorities, industry and businesses, including SMEs, knowledge institutions and citizens. The quality of life and long-term socioeconomic prospects of coastal communities, including women, youth and the most vulnerable groups, needs to be addressed. So there is also a clear link to, let's say, fragile communities or vulnerable groups that would also need to be taken along. What is expected in this partnership are the joint calls for transnational proposals, as this is one of the primary activities. And there is an emphasis on demonstration, upscaling and experimentation calls mentioned in the scope, but this is not exclusively. So there can also be other calls, but a specific emphasis on the higher tier levels is definitely expected. And then apart from the joint calls, there are also joint activities without co-funding from the Union and an other wide range of activities for coordination, international cooperation and outreach, as well as uptake of results for the science policy interfaces that are expected to be included in the proposal. So the SRIA implementation modalities, the annual work plans, the setup of multi-stakeholder community of practice, the clustering of projects, knowledge hubs, rigorous monitoring, that are all different aspects that can be included, and also mobilizing EU national and regional capacities to leverage investments. And then engagement with managing authorities of Europe investment funds is also an asset, as well as for financial aspects that can also be considered, at least for some of them, for the structural funds. So important to highlight, so is the Copernicus and or Galileo and EGNOS reference that has been made for this call, the cooperation and synergies with other partnerships and the ocean and water mission, the third country participation that needs to get attention. And this topic is also flagged for social sciences and humanities, and from a general perspective for ocean sustainability, so that it also gives us or allows us to make an overview of all the marine and maritime related topics in the work program across Horizon Europe. Thank you very much. So this was the presentation for this topic. And then we can go to the next topic. Which is the multi-layer governance performance of marine policies. And this is a research and innovation action. The next slide, please. So this topic is actually a quite abstract and broadly defined topic. There are already quite some analyses that have already been done through potential other research actions, but also procurement issues. There are UN reports that list quite already some shortcomings and analyses on regional governance as well. But this topic is actually intended to focus on solutions and the quantification of elements that are lacking and that need to be developed for a better multi-layer governance of marine policies. So the policy context is the European Green Deal, and the social engagement and innovation within the governance is a particular element that is very important in this topic. So the social issues as well as the digital issues that will refer to the e-governance or improved e-governance of marine policies. Because currently there is a poor coordination between sectoral approaches, low institutional capacity, weak implementation of international conventions, and lack of technical knowledge and of financial resources for regional, cross-regional and national processes. And since this topic has been written, there has also been, of course, the partnerships that came into the landscape as well as the mission. So also the partnership and the mission elements into the multi-layer governance of marine policies could be taken into account in this topic. So the expected outcomes are to improve the understanding by the policy-making community of the institutional barriers in the formulation and implementation of marine policies. And this can also include power balances, political inertia, etc. So the improving understanding of formal and informal policy governance work streams or processes in order to improve them and make very specific recommendations and quantified recommendations to improve them, strengthen e-government and facilitate greater access to public services, enable appropriate communication, exchange, coordination and management at regional, national and European level, and improve collaborative governance performance leading to increased trust in policymaking. So also transparency issues, data issues that could be significantly strengthened so that the citizen can also have more insight in what happens into the multi-layer governance and why they should indeed trust in the specific decisions that are made. The next slide, please. So in the scope, we refer to conceptualizing and operationalizing strategies to address identified barriers to collaborative governance. So including the social aspects, the citizens, transparency to the citizens, related to the ocean and seas, addressing the need to meet increasing public demands. And this can be done through visioning, but also experimentation is expected. And this can also be in different regional areas in Europe where an experimentation could happen. So that this can also lead to strong recommendations on required capacity building and resources, so that we can at least obtain a bit of quantified elements of where specific governance elements need to be strengthened in which way. Improve or develop and leverage innovative digital tools towards a stronger e-government and easily achievable open government data. It also needs to cover comparisons within, across and between different special governance layers to cover a representative set of governance structures across Europe. varying according to size and geographical, environmental, socioeconomic, institutional, and administrative conditions. And so the budget of this topic is quite substantial. Let's say it's 6 million euros. So in order to cover all the governance elements in Europe on marine policies, we also expect that the different regional sea basins are covered, because otherwise you would miss a significant element of the governance if you would not cover the different seas and ocean that are included. So we haven't pushed it so far to make this a multi-actor approach topic, because in this topic we think that the scientists should be in the lead, so that they need to define the project objectives in an independent way, but that they need to use interactive research approaches to engage with the local, regional, national and international authorities, as well as local communities, citizens and other relevant stakeholders. So in order to take them in account in the project and to do a good analysis and also to come to good recommendations. So this for this topic, there are also links to the Horizon Europe mission mentioned in the scope text, as well as to the partnership. But otherwise, this topic has been kept very broad of specific competences that could be included. So we expect, of course, that social sciences may play a crucial role in this, but it may also be political sciences, environmental sciences, sciences of economics, considerations to make also specific job creation issues that could be helpful in the multi-layer governance of marine policies. So it is quite broad, and we expect a quite multidisciplinary consortium also to apply to this project proposals. So thank you very much.
Wendy, many thanks for the presentation of these two topics. Please also stay with us for the Q&A session. We still have two speakers to go. So the next topic will be on 04, and I give the floor to Martin Kerry. Please come in.
Yes, good afternoon. I hope you can hear me well. So I will be presenting under governance topic 04, consumer-focused labeling options for bio-based products, which is a coordination and support action. Can you please go to the next slide? Yes, thank you. So under policy context, it is important to mention the European Green Deal, of course, and the Zero Pollution Action Plan, the Circular Economy Action Plan, and the 2030 Climate Target Plan. Keeping our minds still on the Green Deal, the transformative changes required within the Green Deal are dynamic processes that require appropriate governance, and therefore circular bio-based systems have the potential to contribute substantially to keeping our planet healthy, safe and healthy, and this is, of course, provided that they are developed sustainably, which is at the core of the bioeconomy strategy 2 and also of this topic. Moving on to the expected outcomes, project results are expected to contribute to all of the following expected outcomes that you see on the slide. Firstly, transparency of bio-based products and information to consumers and public authorities need to be provided through effective and robust business-to-consumer labeling on product traceability, quality, carbon footprint, biodiversity impacts, and other environmental footprints. Consumers, industry, and public bodies need to be enabled to switch towards socially and environmentally responsible behavior within their choices in a transparent and inclusive way. And finally, there needs to be improved understanding of metrics on value generated per unit of biological resources. Please move to the next slide to scope. Thank you. So the project is expected to advance the role and impact of bio-based innovation to accelerate the transition from a linear fossil-based economy, which leads to, of course, overuse and depletion of natural resources, into a resource-efficient and circular bio-based systems that are operating within safe planetary boundaries. Improved and informed governance and social innovation contribute to reducing resource consumption and result in an increased innovation capacity of all actors involved. Some of the points on the slides that are important to mention, of course, the perspective of public authorities, national, regional, and local, and also consumers' perspective need to be taken into account. Options for consumers in the digital age is very important. Metrics on value generated in the final product per unit of biological feedstock, including bio-waste, and monitoring system and indicators of effectiveness and robustness of business to consumers labels and certification schemes. These are important points regarding the scope of this topic. The indicative budget here is 3 million euros per project. So one project is foreseen to be funded. And I think with this, I will close my presentation. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Martin, for this short but very, very clear presentation. And I invite now Yuri for the last presentation before we then come to the Q&A session. Yuri, please.
Yes, thank you, Bern, and good afternoon to everyone. I will introduce to you the topic under Governance 105 on innovative tools and methods to evaluate the design and support, monitoring and implementation of effective CAP strategic plans. This topic is a coordination and support action with a budget of 4 million. Next slide, please. Thank you. So first of all, this topic is related to the impact innovative governance models enabling sustainability and resilience, notably to achieve better informed decision-making processes, social engagement and innovation. And what is the policy context? Well, agriculture and rural areas are central to the European Green Deal, and the new Common Agricultural Policy, the CAP, will be a key tool in reaching the ambition of the farm to fork and biodiversity strategies. The CAP is one of the most important EU policies with potential significant impact on agri-food systems, and advancing research, knowledge sharing and innovation is essential for securing a smart and sustainable agricultural sector. The new CAP, which starts in 2023, aims to foster a sustainable and competitive agricultural sector that can support the livelihoods of farmers and provide healthy and sustainable food for society, and also foster vibrant rural areas. So for the new delivery model, each EU country will design a national CAP strategic plan. And when designing the strategic plans, EU countries will contribute to the 9 specific objectives of the CAP through a toolbox of broad policy measures provided by the Commission, which can be shaped around national needs and capabilities. So for these new CAP delivery models, member states are in charge of maximizing the contribution to EU objectives. But what are the expected outcomes of this topic? So basically, it's to strengthen EU science policy interfaces to support the Green Deal and Sustainable Development Goals with better informed decision-making process in agricultural policies for the green transition, and in particular, to support policymakers with cutting-edge tools and methods to design, monitor, and implement tailored and results-based CAP strategic plans that reflects the ambition of the Farm to Fork strategy and the Green Deal more broadly. Then to improve accountability of the new CAP strategic plans through targets that are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound, SMART targets as defined, and they must also be coherent with EU objectives and international commitments. And then to share good practices on the application of innovation of innovative tools and methods across member states. Next slide, please. So concerning the scope, we refer to review and benchmark existing tools and/or methods used in different member states to support the development, implementation, and monitoring of effective CAP strategic plans. Then to develop, test, and demonstrate a set of innovative tools and methods, both qualitative and quantitative, to evaluate the design and support the implementation and monitoring of effective CAP strategic plans. These tools and methods should, first of all, consider the objectives and policies of the post-2020 Common Agricultural Policy, then consider also the coherence between the CAP, other EU policies, and more in general EU international commitments. They should also consider already existing tools and methods provided by the European Commission, be it for compatibility, but also to explore innovative approaches. Then propose case studies in member states with diverse coverage of farming systems, also considering different government structures and geographical balance, which should also include the outermost regions. Then to keep in mind for this topic, as an important point, is that the JRC, the Joint Research Center, may participate to the consortium, in particular to ensure the access and improved coherence with the tools used by the Commission. Thank you for your attention.
Yuri, thanks a lot. This was the last topic in this blog. I see for the time being we have only 2 questions on topic 3 and 4, so we can both take them. It would be for Wendy and for Martin. For the audience, if in the meantime you have a question you would like to raise, please put it in Slido. This is the moment before we then move to the next block. Please go ahead.
Yes. So as you said, we have 2 questions, and for the first one, we know it's for Wendy, but Wendy, we are not sure if this question is for topic 2 or for topic 3, so we'll let you decide. The question is the following: do we need to refer to technology readiness level scale for proposals?
Okay, thank you, Gael. I can actually respond for both topics. So the topic on the multi-layer governance of marine policies, it has not been given a technological readiness level because we were actually convinced that it was more appropriate to use a societal readiness level. But this has not been possible yet within the work program, so that's why we have left it open. But we, of course, expect a quite high readiness to introduce specific results of the project into the society or into the policy landscape. So this is for that topic. And then for the other topic, for the partnership, it could, of course, also refer to technological readiness levels, because this would make it then more clear at which level the joint calls would be. But it's not an obligation, because it can also be calls that where a specific technological readiness level could also not potentially apply to. And so they would also be free to let's say, use societal readiness levels, which is also already used in Denmark, if I'm not wrong. And so considering the need of a higher technological readiness level, this was also not exclusively, because there were also a significant number of member states who also wanted still the option open for research and innovation actions. So I hope that these answers were helpful.
Thanks a lot. And next question is for Martin. So a question for topic 4. Are food products within scope of this topic?
Yes. I hope you can hear me. Thank you for the question. So proposals should focus on consumer-oriented labeling options for industrial bio-based products that have a low environmental footprint, but food and feed is not included. No.
Thanks a lot. We have now a question on topic, let me highlight it. So on topic 1, can we consider a new position of Europe's governance for new breeding techniques to obtain innovative agriculture? I'm sorry, it has been moved, this question. So I hope you could see it. I don't know what happened. Sorry for that. Colleagues, could you bring it back? And if not, I will read this question on topic 5. Can you further elaborate on the objective of the case studies? So this is for question for topic 5, and this is for Yuri. Yuri, can you step in for this question on topic 5, please? While we are looking for the other question which disappeared. This is the magic.
Yes, I hope you can hear me. Yeah, so basically the idea is to propose case studies in different member states that would, let's say, help with the analysis of these tools and methods for the monitoring and evaluation of CAP strategic plans. So basically, case studies would just help these tools and methods. I hope that replies to the question.
Yes, it does. And now I can see another question on topic 5, which is about GRC. So is there a specific GRC team that is more relevant to this topic?
Well, to that, I'm not sure I have a 100% sure reply. We know there are GRC teams working specifically on agriculture, but I'm sure that there might be also other teams that could contribute, depending on the, let's say, on what is proposed by the consortium. So I would suppose there is a specific team, the one dealing with agriculture, which might be maybe the most involved, but I wouldn't exclude other teams.
And suddenly, as I have you on my screen, Yuri, I keep you with us for answering this other question. How do you foresee this project informing the launch of CSFPS for 23-27?
Yes, thank you. Well, the scope, the scope covers specifically also not really the designing, but mostly the evaluation, let's say, monitoring and evaluation. So it's also, let's say, to gather knowledge of what will happen in member states, and then evaluate best practices and share these best practices among all. And I would say it's not just, you could consider it's not just about the designing again, but really about sharing the best practices. And it could also consider like what has been done to reach the objectives.
Thanks a lot. And now we have a question for Wendy. So Wendy, for topic 2, how many projects will be funded?
Okay. If this is on the partnership topic, then I'm afraid that there may be a misunderstanding, because this is a co-fund partnership. And so the beneficiaries for this type of, let's say, grant agreement that are mainly funding organizations. So for this partnership co-funded topic, let's say, it are the beneficiaries, so the consortium that will go through the evaluation process, and if they get successfully their grant agreement, they will define they will define in their proposal, let's say, how many calls they will include in the duration of the partnership, and they will focus on the first annual work plan. So this is really a very specific kind of topic that is mainly focused for funding beneficiaries of member states and associated countries, and then they can also see themselves which other organizations they would like to include in the funding consortium, let's say. So I hope that this clarifies, so that also other organizations or other universities don't waste time in looking further into this topic.
Okay, thanks a lot. I would. This brings us to the end of this Q&A section and this blog, and I would like to thank very much Julia, Wendy, Martin, and Yuri for their excellent presentations and for the interest of the participants also in this block. We will do now a very short break before we move to the next block, which, according to my extremely detailed schedule, starts at 15:32. So if you are at home, you can go to the kitchen and prepare a coffee. We don't have a coffee machine here. We will take some water and look forward to seeing you then at 15:32. So in 3 minutes for the next block. Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm sorry for the slight delay, but there was a problem with the fantastic coffee machine here in this conference center. So we are a little bit late, but I hope you had the opportunity to prepare wonderful coffee for the next more or less 1 hour, which is ahead of us. And we are coming to the last block of this session. We will continue with topic 06, and I'm happy to pass the floor to my dear colleague Panos, please.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you also, Bernd. Happy also to present you this topic, which is about water governance, economic and financial sustainability of water resource systems. And this is a topic which is for research and innovation action. So if you go to the next slide, so here you can see let's say the policy context and the expected outcomes, and I think this is very important in order also to allow you also to link this the rationale of this topic with the overall expected impact, of the destination, and then also going back to the orientation strategy. What is important there, this is what is the problem that we have to face. The problem is, as probably you all are aware, the problems that we have to face in order, to address also the water challenges are very complex. We have, water is everywhere. We have to ensure water for our environment. We have also to ensure also environment for our citizens and also for our economy. But on the other hand, we know that also the water is an issue which is the management of water, is fragmented between different services, between different stakeholders, and there are also different policies which are directly or indirectly also linked to the water management. So this requires, a strong governance in order to manage well. And so for that reason, I think we have to change also to develop such a governance strategies that they can also help us also to change the water, that we use. We share also the environment, the water within the different also components. And for that reason, we have, as I said, to develop appropriate and multi-level type of governance in the institutional settings, because we know very often that the solutions, the technical solutions are there, but very often, the management, the governance is not there. So here you can also see what we expect. We have indicated as expected outcomes. As I said, again, it's important to improve policy implementation to secure, sustainable water across different sectors. I think this is important. How to better, allocate the water, and the mechanisms to do this is try to promote this more integrated planning approach between, water consuming sectors, and then to take into consideration the interplay of the different also policies, and better also coordinate the different also policies. And last but not least, we know that water is about citizens. So this is important to empower the citizens, to help also society to implement also this governance, because this also requires the engagement of the society, of the end users, to really to achieve our desirable and sustainable water future. And of course, last but not least, to ensure also the implementation, to support the implementation of the European Green Deal. Many European Green Deal strategies have water-related targets, and of course there are relevant sustainable development goals to water. Next slide. This is about the scope of this call. As you can also see in this in the slide, what you would like also to look is really to develop This is the main to validate, to develop and validate, some innovative multi-level, multi-stakeholder, governance practices. And then for that reason, we would like to try also to assess these governance practices and approaches in different also river basins, because there this is the scale where we can optimize better, water governance and integrate also this with the different also sectors. For that reason, we would like also to understand better, how these different operational governance models also influence also the realization of the sustainable water management practices, and also to see how we can also overcome also the different also potential also conflict. What is important there in order also to approach the good tariffs and the water prices, we have also to better assess the value of water, because this is very important, and so this is important also to develop innovative also financial mechanisms, and last but not least, as I said, it's important also to develop also innovative mechanism also to promote also stakeholders, not only engagement, but more, I would say, more in engagement and involvement in this water governance. This is a topic, as I said, which is research and innovation action. We have an overall budget which is about 10 million euro foreseen. So we have an indicative budget per project about 3 million. So we expect, to have about 3 projects, 3 proposals also to be supported. And what is important there, of course, this is a topic very relevant for socioeconomic aspects. So social economic sciences are important. We speak here about citizen engagement. So these are very important elements to be considered. Thank you very much for your attention, and we'll be happy to reply to your questions.
Many thanks, Panos, for your excellent presentation. We'll take first the other speakers. So, Panos, if you could stay with us for the Q&A section, which will start shortly after 4 o'clock, please. And I will turn now to Marianne. You have the privilege to present 3 topics, 7, 8, and 9. Please, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you so much for that, Bernd. And indeed, I have the pleasure, and I receive it like that, to actually give you 3 topics. All 3 topics have one thing in common. They all have environmental observation in the center of the topic. So they could be about different domains and about in different actions, but all of them are centered around environmental observations. So I start with the first one. We always try to make it a point to maybe sometimes have long titles, but with that have already the main elements of the topic sort of captured in the titles. So in this case, for topic 7, it's about new technologies for acquiring in situ observation data set to address climate change effects. All 3 elements are very important in this one. And it's a so-called innovation action, which means that we expect the topic at the end of the project or the project at the end of the time to be actually at technology readiness level 6 to 8. And the next slide. If we can go to the next, yes, great. In the next slide, we see the policy context. So what is the context we're working in? We see that there's a need for the development of new technologies addressing the lack of ground observational data, the so-called in situ observations, specifically in hard to reach and therefore undersampled areas. Generally speaking, we are always looking for a strengthened GEOS, Global Earth Observation System of Systems, and GEOS is under GEO, the International Intergovernmental Group on Earth Observations. And the other thing we are always looking for is to deploy and add value to environmental observations. With this, it relates back to the destination impacts on the 2 you see here under in the green box. So 1 on the Green Deal related domains to benefit from further deployment deployment and exploitation of environmental observation data and products, and on the other hand, to a strengthened GEOS. Then if we look at the expected outcomes, we expect you to address at least 4 of them. They are on the lowering cost of in situ observations in terms of capital cost, but also for deployment and recovery. They are on the improved geographical coverage and long-term series of in situ environmental observation. We expect to have tested and validated new in situ measurement technologies in especially those hard to reach and undersampled areas. We're looking for dedicated technical protocols to ensure validation, interoperability and synchronizations. And then we're looking at the in situ systems, remote sensing systems, but then in compliance with GEOS and Copernicus. We're looking for an established collaboration with environmental observation providers to ensure proper gap filling. So this relates back to also the to the business. So we're looking for coherent business models involving not only research centers and users, but also those industrialists. And then as such, ensuring the sustainability of the system developed, that they really have ideally an outcome or an outreach beyond the term of the project, the time the project is running. And as such, as a sort of a large overall impact, we're looking for the contribution to the reinforcing of the in situ component. And then if we go to the next slide, the scope we're doing this in. So we're looking, or the scope is that the geographical coverage and acquisition of long-term series in situ observation over various components of the Earth system should be improved. We still have a lot of in situ data gaps, which we would really like to fill up. And this is to ensure a proper monitoring and modeling of the environmental process. There are several, and please for all of them, look in the topic text itself, but there are several programs or initiatives we would like you to link to or to build on. So for instance, Copernicus, GOOSE, the GOOSE 2030 strategy and the Group on Earth observations, but also to support innovative technological solutions building on cutting-edge technologies. It is an innovation action, so we are looking for these technologies. And then also, again, related to those in situ measurements. It could cover both marine or terrestrial measurements, but those hard to reach areas or areas with extreme physical conditions where the lack of in situ data actually makes it difficult to say anything about that in terms of mitigation of climate change and assessment of climate change. Those are the areas we are mostly interested in. And then the proposal should be conducted in collaboration with Copernicus, so the part of the Earth observation part of the EU space program, as well as other relevant activities and communities. And as the last thing, and I said that before in the expected outcomes, the development of new situ observation systems should be conducted in close collaboration with the commercial sector. And this is really to ensure an outreach and an impact on the longer term. Then what's the budget we're talking about? We're talking about a budget of 20 million euro in total. And even though it's not a obligatory thing, the range of funding we're looking for per project is around 3 million euro. So that's it for this topic. Thank you already for your assistance, but we're going to continue for a bit. And then we go to another topic, so topic number 8. And also here, maybe a bit a long title, but to immediately get you into where we want to be. So for topic 8, we're talking about the uptake and the validation of citizen observations to complement authoritative measurement within the urban environment and to boost citizen-related engagement. So uptake, validation of citizen information, one big element. Complementing the authoritative measurements within the urban environment is another element. And then as a last, but definitely not least, boosting related citizen science engagements. Again, we're talking here about an innovation action, meaning that we expect at the end of the project to be at a technology readiness level, TRL, of 6 to 8. If we then go to the next slide. So the policy context, it's very similar to the previous one, and it will be to the next one. So one is that there's a deployment, the need for deployment and adding value to environmental observations. And also here, looking at the last one, we're also here looking for a contribution to a strengthened GEOS. But here we also take into account the whole citizen aspect, which is more and more important overall, and also within Horizon Europe. So we're looking at improving and the uptake of validation, improving the uptake and validation of data collected by citizens, and as such also increasing citizen involvement, increasing citizen engagement, and overall contributing to the European Green Deal objectives. Then looking at which related impacts within the destinations are connected to this topic. It's the same one as the previous one, and it will be the same one as the next topic as well. It's really about this further deployment and exploitation of environmental observation in Green Deal related domains, and then also about strengthening GEOS. So if you take a look at the expected outcomes, here we expect you to actually address all of them. So what are we talking about? We're talking about a better participation or a more widespread participation of citizens, in monitoring and observation, but as such also in protecting the urban environment. So very much related to the urban environment. As with the previous topic, we see that there's this in situ data gap, and also here citizen observations are also very much in situ observations. Also here we like to have a greater availability of qualitative and quantitative in situ data, and as such contributing to the in situ component of the existing observation systems. A broader use of data and information collected by citizens in policy and research, but then complementary to the authoritative observations. So basically what is already there, we feel that you can give a better, do a better assessment if you would combine that with citizen derived data. So then increased use of existing toolkits and development of new toolboxes for broad use. We're talking about methodologies, methods, technologies, and it's really to make it as easy as possible for citizens to actually cooperate in observing their environment, and in this case the urban environment. And the last one is also connected to that, so the leverage use of wearables for citizens. And not only wearables, it could be other low-cost technologies, but in the domain of environmental observation. And then if we go to the last slide for this one. So what is the scope we're talking about? I think it's been clear already throughout the first slide or the first two slides, but just to recap, so support citizen engagement in the collection of data and the use of data within that urban environment, and as such contribute to more comprehensive and available data and information to assess the state of the urban environment. The proposal should ensure that observations data will be available on existing platforms. This could be different platforms. We name here, for instance, GEOS, so the Global Earth Observation System of Systems. And then the sustainability of the existing or new validation methods should be ensured for a broader use in future through toolboxes. This is a very interesting element about this topic, is that we are also specifically looking to include citizens through social, innovative, cultural or art-related initiatives. We have seen that in topics before, and it's really an element of interest to us to see if this approach would actually get a large citizen engagement. So be attentive of that. And then particular attention should be directed to the cooperation between different groups of engaged citizens observers. We have recently had the We Observe project end its work, and they delivered a roadmap. The roadmap is being referred to within the topic, and we really expect that selected projects are developing in co-creation, but then also building up this We Observe roadmap. And as a last but not least, seek to contribute to the new European Bauhaus initiative. Also here, what is the budget we're talking about? So 40 million in total, and a range is expected of 3 to 5 million per project. So thank you for your attention for this one, and then I will continue to the last topic. So this is a topic again in a very much different domain, but centered around environmental observations. Topic 9. Here we have a short title. So environmental observation solutions contributing to meeting the One Health challenges. Very straightforward, but maybe not so much in the execution. But okay, that's why we have you contributing or applying for these projects. This is a so-called research and innovation action. And if we can then go to the next slide. So the policy context, that must sound familiar after 2 other topics by now, but I will repeat it for full clarity. Also here, there is the need to deploy and add value to environmental observations. And here, the other thing is that we want to have it focused on how to use environmental observation in the context of the One Health domain, and how it can contribute to the One Health domain and the challenges and the goals that are to be met and are set. The related impacts, I won't repeat those. It's the same one as for the other 2. So then if we go to the expected outcomes, we expect you to at least contribute to 3 of them, or at least address 3 of them. And the reason we say at least 3 is because we realize that some of them are significantly different than others. So it will be very challenging to address all of them. However, you're of course very welcome to try, but this is the reason why we say at least 3. So what are the outcomes we're talking about? A better insights in how to foster the use of environmental observations in the large domain of One Health. So we're talking about not only human health, which is the thing that maybe immediately comes to mind, but also about plant health, also about animal health, and also about the relations between those. It could target all of this. And then the large domain of One Health, but the areas that could benefit within that domain the most from environmental and Earth observation. We're talking about, or we're looking for an increase of the capacity to trace environmental parameter changes and how they impact the emergence of diseases. We're looking at the monitoring of the evolution of ecosystem barriers and reinforcement of their sustainability. So an outcome in that direction. And then as a slightly different aspect, also to contribute to the understanding of the emergence and tackling the spread of new infectious diseases affecting human, animal, or plant health, and building up more resilient ecosystems. Very timely in the current era, I would say. And then as the last one, we're looking for better insights into the concept of alert and early warning system based on Earth observation, including, where possible, in working with the outcomes of the EIC Horizon Prize on Early Warning for Epidemics. This EIC Horizon Prize is an inducement prize that was launched under Horizon 2020, and the winner will be announced in the coming weeks. And there will be attention given not only to the winner, but to all 3 of the finalists, meaning that the outcomes will be known in a couple of weeks. Okay, then I think we go to the last and final slides of my 3 topics. So the scope, okay, we are targeting the areas within the One Health policy that would benefit from the use of environmental observations, and also how it can be used to further shape those policies, so specifically in the context of the One Health, and build on this holistic concept that One Health is. So again, even though one of the topics might be, one of the expected outcomes might be mostly directing towards humans, this is definitely not necessarily what we're looking for. It could also be animals, it could be soil, it could be plants, it could be ecosystems and environmental health. So it's really the broad holistic concept that One Health is. A specific focus of the proposal could be on the monitoring of the evolution of ecosystem barriers. And then that could be particular, for instance, in the densely populated industrial and agricultural areas. And how then they relate, of course, to the emergence or spread of diseases. The concept of alert or early warning system based on observation, that could also again be for multiple purposes, so including consideration of disease hazards, but also human or animal exposure and vulnerability. As said in the outcomes, a particular area of interest in this context is the follow-up to the EIC Horizon Prize on Early Warning for Epidemics. And as with almost all of the topics, if not all of the topics under environmental observations, the links to Copernicus, GEOS, and satellite navigation, so EGNSS, are relevant and expected. Then as a final word, the indicative budget. We have a budget available of 10 million euros, and we're looking for projects in the range of 5 million euro. Thank you so much for your attention. This was it from my side, and I think back to you, Bernd.
And many thanks for the very good presentation of these 3 topics. And without further ado, I will give the floor to Daniela. Bitte schön.
Yes, good afternoon, everyone. I will present now the topic piloting approaches and tools to empower citizens to exercise their data rights in the area of food and nutrition, which is a research and innovation action. Next slide, please. Again, here the backbone of the topic is of course the European Green Deal, but at the same time also the European Data Strategy to make the EU the leading role model for society empowered by data for the benefit of all, and also which outlines a future in which the way data is collected and used places the individual first in accordance with European values. So in supporting this, the outcomes that are expected from this topic are the following on the right-hand side, and they are manifold. First, to support the deployment of digital and data technologies as key enablers for the European Green Deal priorities, the EU's climate ambition, and the Farm to Fork strategy. At the same time, empowering citizens to exercise their data rights and to contribute to a just transition of food systems. In approaching this, also piloting digital solutions in food systems and nutrition with enhanced personal data protection and data sovereignty, and which achieve a fairer distribution of wealth and benefits. And lastly, to also advance alternative approaches to food system data sharing that promote innovation and increase competition. And how is this all achieved? On the next slide, we see the scope, so the following activities. As already indicated, of course, in supporting the implementation of the European Data Strategy in food systems, while building on recent research and innovation about new architectures for managing online identity, personal and other data as an alternative to current dominant models. Secondly, also really as it is a research and innovation action, piloting new approaches to digital solutions in food systems and nutrition, which enhance personal data protection and data sovereignty. And in that, test and fine-tune new approaches that address the lack thereof of European citizens on food and nutrition-related data. So to allow citizens what is being done with their data, also including data that is generated by smart connected devices used by citizens, and also including tools and concepts that can include consent management tools, personal information management apps, as well as personal data cooperatives and others. And here the last point, to demonstrate the feasibility of achieving a more acceptable trade-off between the need for data-driven innovation in food and nutrition on the one hand, and on the other hand, the need for personal data protection and sovereignty. And in that, topics should focus at least on 2 key areas of digital transformation and data-driven innovation in food systems that will be key enablers of the Green Deal. Such as online food retail, consumer behavior, or food advertising. And they should also explain, of course, how the pilots will achieve co-benefits relevant to the 4 Food 2030 priorities. On the organizational side of the project, it will be 8 million euros are dedicated for this topic, with the planning of having 2 topics, 4 million each. It is again a multi-actor approach, which has been outlined already by Inge in detail. It is an SSH flagged topic. As it is a research innovation action, there's also a requirement for technology readiness level of 4 to 6. And also proposals may provide support to third parties to develop and implement tools and pilots. And they should, where possible, make data available for broader communal use in that topic. And with that one, I hand over to Bernd, and thank you.
Vielen Dank, Daniela. And we will move now to our last speaker, last but not least, topic 15, Doris. Please go ahead, and then we come to the final Q&A session. Doris.
Yeah, thank you for providing me the opportunity to introduce another topic, the last one for today. And I hope I can call your attention for 5 further minutes, because it's a quite important topic. So the topic is planned as a research and innovation action under Horizon Europe Cluster 6, also in Destination 7, with a special focus on digital and data technologies, as well as on Earth observation in the agriculture sector. Let me begin to introduce the topic with one question. What are the key challenges in the use of freely available satellite data in agriculture production and in policy monitoring and evaluation? It's a pity that the time will not allow to discuss these questions this afternoon. Yet I'm confident that aspects which would have been brought forward in such an exchange would include, for instance, the limited resolution of imagery and the challenges of interpretation of Earth observation data. Horizon 2020 projects, as well as applications already used at a day-to-day basis in the private and in the public domain, show the potential of data technologies to capitalize Earth observation data. More and more sources necessary as reference and training data become available, especially through the increased use of digital technologies in agriculture. To exploit the potential, topic for research and innovation action was developed, namely upscaling real-time sensor data for European Union-wide monitoring of production and agro-environmental conditions. Looking at the policy context on the next slide, this topic is expected to contribute, among others, the headline's ambition of the Green Deal, here the farm-to-fork strategy in particular, the digital age, especially to the data strategy, and the economy that works for people. More specifically, it is expected to support, firstly, the enhancement of the sustainability performance and competitiveness in agriculture, through further deployment of digital and data technologies. Important here is that the focus is not only on an increased uptake of digital technologies, but in particular on their more effective deployment by farmers, especially considering that data is a key determinant for the effectiveness of digital technologies. Moreover, and more specifically, it is expected to support making agriculture benefit from further deployment and exploitation of environmental observation data and environmental observation products through research and innovation related to sensors and sensor data. The expected outcomes include, firstly, building up aforementioned points, strengthening the capacities for smart farming, and thus to enhance environmental and economic performance of the agriculture sector. Secondly, strengthening capacities for agro-environmental and climate monitoring, particularly of soil and crop conditions, which may address private and public sector interests. And thirdly, the provision of input to the work of the Horizon Europe Partnership, Agriculture of Data, and the Research and Innovation Mission on Soil Health. While the mission on soil health has already been launched, The Partnership Agriculture of Data is foreseen to be launched under the Work Programme 23-24. As you can see on the next slide, the overall indicative budget foreseen for this topic is 50 million euro, whereby the Commission estimates that a European Union contribution of around 7.5 million would allow to address the outcomes just outlined appropriately. With this research and innovation action, the participation by the Joint Research Centre is possible. The selected projects are expected to follow a multi-actor approach. And the relevance of the multi-actor approach also becomes obvious when having a closer look at the defined scope of the activities to be carried out under the topic. Firstly, innovative approaches to use in situ data collected through sensors used in agriculture production as input to the application of data technologies. Secondly, approaches to analyze the data in real through processing at the source, for instance, through edge computing, associated with analytics, including AI, in combination with, for instance, Earth observation data. Thirdly, innovative approaches to benchmark and tailor agriculture production through sensor data sharing at regional level, including the development of business models. Fourthly, approaches to generate European Union-wide datasets through the upscaling of data collected through sensors used in agriculture production. And finally, the demonstration of how sensor-generated data can be further capitalized for the development of the agriculture sector, other sectors, and the public good. Thank you.
Doris, many thanks. You've certainly well explained that this is the last but also very, very important topic. And with this, you have concluded the long list of today's speaker for Destination 7. We still have a little bit of time for the questions which have so far been posted in Slido. So far I see mostly on three topics. So we have roughly 15 minutes before we need to close the session. And thanks to colleagues who have of the last block who have stayed in now to reply to the question. Well, I'll hand over the floor to you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. So Marianne, be ready because we have a number of questions on EO topics. So we will start with topic 7. Citizens' observatories could be considered for this topic.
So topic 7 is the one on the in situ data. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I would say why not, as long as all the other as long as all the boxes are checked. However, the topic focusing on citizen observations and citizen observatories is actually the topic 8. So I guess this question was indeed put in for the right topic. So the question is directed at topic 7 on the in situ. And then I would say if it fits within the overall asked expected outcomes and scope, it could be. But if you are very much directed towards citizen observations, then maybe the topic 8 is to look at.
Okay, and next question, so it's still on this in situ topic. To what extent should industry be involved? Should they be part of the consortium? Is it better to have one company or several companies if they produce similar instruments?
Yeah, this is really almost impossible to answer right now because it depends really on what the intention of the person or consortium writing the topic is. What we ask for is something that will ensure that or ensure for as far as possible that there is impact and outreach on the outcome of the project beyond the running time of the project. It is really up to the applicants to see what is the best way to ensure this. That could be to have the industry involved, or to have SMEs involved, or to have other commercial partners involved in the consortium. We do ask to be in contact with them, but if there's another way which would also achieve that, I mean, it's not prescribed that they have to be. It's just that the element in there says, and I will go back to how it was written down. It says the development of a new in situ observation system should be conducted in close collaboration with the commercial sector. So for you to fill in what this close collaboration is, but we have seen, of course, many consortium with commercial partners in the past.
Okay.
So I will continue my marathon, Gail, or?
Yes, you will continue your marathon with topic 8 now. So I will try to guide you to the question. So this first question, I will relate it to another one. So be ready, because it's a several-fold question, okay? So topic 8, it's citizen observatories. Huh? So you make a distinction between toolkits and toolboxes. What is the difference? Isn't it contradictory to ask to use existing toolbox and develop new toolboxes? Are the users of the toolbox citizens or public authorities? And I will liaise it also with another one on the screen. Is the focus on providing citizens with tools and toolboxes, or on facilitating the uptake of CGD by policymakers? I'm afraid I don't know what CDG means, CGD, but maybe you know. But let's start by the first one, at least. Huh?
Let's start by the first one. Okay. Yes, it's of many elements. Let's see if I can tackle all of them. I think in this case, there is no explicit difference between toolkits and toolboxes, but then you get to the second part of the question, asking if it's contradictory to ask for this and develop new ones. No, it's not. And the reason for this is that we always, and especially when it comes to innovation actions, but generally speaking, we would prefer that you build on things that are already there, to not reinvent the wheel on the back of a topic which we ask. But it can be, if you look at what is there, that you find that there's something fundamentally missing in achieving the goals, or getting towards the expected outcomes that are asked within the topic. So that means that it's not contradictory to ask to use existing toolbox, because if they are there, or toolkits, if they are there, please use them. But it could be necessary to develop new ones if they're not there for the particular, let's say, for what you would need them for at that time. Then on the users, as it's written in the topic, we're looking for a broad use. So I would say citizens and public authorities, and probably beyond. Broad use to be up to you to define, basically.
Thanks a lot, Marianne. And then the related question was this one, which is highlighted now. Is the focus on providing citizens with tools and toolboxes, or facilitating the uptake of citizen-generated data? Now I have somebody who will help me knowing
data.
what this acronym means.
Perfect. We are looking at both. We're looking at the complementarity of authoritative measurements on the one hand, and we're looking at the use of citizens' data, but then also to be able to equip them to be able to actually deliver those data, which we can then complement with those authoritative measurements, facilitating the uptake. Yeah, I think for me that's sort of part of the same puzzle in this sense. So really, it's in the complementing of the authoritative measurements there.
Thanks. And the following is, can you give an example of qualitative in situ data that can strengthen GEOs?
Yeah, so here I'm going to be a bit not following exactly your directions, Gail. I hope you forgive me for this, because when reading this, I find it difficult to relate this question to topic 8. And it's very easy to relate this question to topic 7. So I'm just going to answer as if it was supposed to be for topic 7, and for whoever wrote it down, apologies if you meant it for topic 8, but it's more likely that it's for topic 7 in terms of the topic description itself. And then assuming it's for topic 7, we're talking about multiple data sets that can be considered. Maybe ocean stations, as the world ocean is not very well sampled. Maybe high latitude or depth. Maybe polar areas, desert areas, tropical forests. So it could be all of those kind of areas, and all of those gaps, and filling all of those gaps will contribute to the GEOS, because right now this delivers an uncertainty in models.
Thanks. And the last one for topic 8, and for you, I believe, the topic description scope is very broad for a 3 to 5 million project. Are the elements presented in your slides the most important?
I always try, I'm not saying I always manage to, but I always try to keep my slides very close to the topic description. This is you know, maybe less interesting in the sense that you could have read that then also in the topic descriptions, but still I want to give you the correct information and really what we ask for, because sometimes that comes very close. So in this case, the slides reflect the topic description in a summarized way, meaning that the topic description is larger than what's on the slide, but it is a summary of that. To answer this question, I really have to recommend you to look at the topic text itself. It should be written down clear enough. And of course, or not of course, but let's say we intentionally keep topics broad every now and then to really spark your creativity and to come to give you the ability to come with things we didn't foresee ourselves, because that is one of the wonderful things of this program. It really sparks innovation, and not always in the direction we have foreseen, but always in something that will land well and will give us new information. So this one I'm really going to refer to the topic description itself, but please consider the broadness rather as an advantage than a disadvantage.
Thanks, Marianne, and I think that this is it for you now. So you can have a break.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks a lot, Marianne. And now we have 2 questions for Doris. And these are questions on topic 11. And these are very pressing questions because they were even asked before you presented the topic. So please, Doris, can you answer the first one, which is this one? Where can we find details on the forthcoming Common European Agriculture Data Space? Should we interlink with future related Digital Europe projects?
Yes, thank you for the question. So the first work program of the Digital Europe program is expected to be published end of this year. So still November, December, I cannot specify a concrete date. So what is expected here is to link up and in the way, so not in a legal format or in the governance structures, but to consider the work which will be undertaken under the so-called coordination and support action in the context of the Common European Agriculture Data Space. So I think you can regard it as quite similar as we would write in the call text, that you have to establish interlinks between 2 Horizon projects or 2 Horizon initiatives. So to some extent, you have to reflect in the proposal how you achieve synergies, avoid duplications, and consider the work undertaken under the so-called coordination and support action. And for sure, you can, in this regard, you cannot point to clear-cut links because the coordination and support actions will probably not be established until you have to set up and submit your proposal. So meaning you have to provide indication of what is your intention about it.
Thanks. And this is the last question of the session of the day and maybe of the info day, Doris. So this is for you again. Does the desired flexibility of the project work plan mean that proposals should not be too prescriptive in terms of the technologies and sensors involved?
Yes, thank you for the question. That is a quite relevant one. So we have to consider also the timeline and that technologies develop over time. So, and that means also that the project proposal has to allow for, let's say, some kind of flexibility to grow or develop with the technological innovation which will become available over time. For instance, we could guess that in the form of sensors, the level of resolution also will be quite higher in some years to go. Also that the cost will be reduced. And so there will be developments as well. And in so far, that is to be considered. So that is one key reason for allowing for flexibility. I hope I have addressed the question sufficiently and wish all good luck from my side.
Many thanks, Doris, and a big thanks also to this last block of speakers, Panos, Marianne, Daniela, and to you, Doris. Of course, a big thanks to you, our unfortunately only virtual audience. It was indeed the last session of these info days. Tomorrow we still have our brokerage event. I hope that our speakers, and I'm sure that our speakers have attracted your interest in this very important destination, that they have shown you the horizontality of this destination, which really cuts across many thematic areas and has an impact on important areas such as climate mitigation, clean air, water, and soil. They have also hopefully attracted your interest in submitting a lot of good proposals, which will help us, which will help the research community to provide new innovative approaches to governance, which are really needed for the transformative changes required by the European Green Deal. We finish almost in time. Thanks a lot for your energy and patience accompanying us for 2.5 hours. And I would like to thank the whole team being with me here in this beautiful room for having sailed through safely. And I wish all a nice, wonderful afternoon and evening. Goodbye.